Hi, everyone. Welcome to the September monthly Pressbooks product update. I'm Steel Wagstaff, the product manager at Pressbooks, and I want to show several things that we have worked on and delivered, or that we are working on over the last couple months. This is the agenda for what we're going to talk about. A bunch of new features, and then what's coming soon, and then there'll be a time at the end where you can share updates or news of interest for you. The first thing I want to share is that we've improved the Pressbooks directory fetcher, especially for open source networks. So we have a system where we keep track of all of the networks that we host, as well as several prominent open source networks that might be using and hosting Pressbooks. And so in the last couple of months, we've become aware of even more institutions that are hosting their own version of Pressbooks and want to be included in the directory. And so we have a system here where we can submit, and if we know about an open source network that wants to be included in the directory, and they have to make a small change on their side so that the books get synced and deleted as expected. But here's a big list of all the open source networks, and we can add and remove lists from this. So these would be all of the networks that we're aware of that want to be included in the directory that we don't host. Right now there's 14 of them. So let's say BC Campus Open Textbooks we'll look at first, and then Open Education Alberta. If you come into the directory, you can come over on the left-hand side and say, let's see, here's BC Campus Open Publishing. I could filter just by this network, and you'll see there are 169 books published by BC Campus Open Publishing that are all being synced and indexed into a directory. So here's the Alberta network, and you can see there's 51 books from the University, or from Alberta's shared Pressbooks network. We made some improvements to how we're handling and how we're indexing open source networks. But the basic idea is we have a tool that will go out and communicate to the API of every Pressbooks network that we know about, that we want to include, every hour. And it will say, do you have any updates for me? Are there any new books that should be included in the directory? Or have you made any changes? So you'll see the directory right now has 5,822 books from 160 different Pressbooks networks. Every hour, we check for updates. So this would be accurate as of the hour. And if a book is deleted, made private, or removed from the directory, those changes happen instantly. We have an endpoint where we say, oh, remove it instantly. So removals happen instantly and updates happen every hour. And we're now updating regularly for both hosted networks and open source networks, as smooth as you like. And system's working pretty well for us. Hopefully it's working well for you. If you are aware of an open source network that's publishing books that they or you think should be included, please let us know, and we have a pretty simple process to get them added and indexed as well. Any questions for me about the directory and the fetcher that we're using and how that's working?
I actually don't have a question about the fetch process and all that. What I wondered is, I noticed their publisher is not necessarily the same as their network. Do you all have a recommendation? Because here in Oklahoma, we share the OpenOCO platform, and we're struggling with, should OpenOCO Press be the publisher, or I guess we would be able to sort by our network, so we can use the institution as the publisher. What do you all recommend?
That's a terrific question. Publisher is usually a piece of metadata that's like actually the institution, the organization that's responsible for publishing the book. It's more of a traditional print paradigm, but often there'll be publishing houses or presses or things like that. So you can choose it to follow a convention or not. The things that will matter will be at the book level. There's a few different pieces of metadata that you can use. I have some general advice, and then others on the call probably have different practices that they can speak to. The first thing that you'll see is when you come into book info, there's two fields that might be useful. In your case, you're on a shared consortial network. So we added a new feature kind of recently that's different from publisher, that's called institution. So this is when you have a multi-institution network that's publishing books. This is an optional field that can display the institutions which created the resource. This is a little different than publisher. The publisher might be OpenOCO Press, but let's say these institutions, let's say we say Tulsa, let's look for Tulsa Community College here. Tulsa Community College, and let's say you partnered with, I don't know who else, let's say Central Oklahoma. So Tulsa Community, let's say those two institutions partnered on it. You could add those institutions there. Now, what would happen in the directory is there's a filter over here that lets you filter by institution. So you could say, I only want to see things that are, let's say, Fanshawe College. here are all the books that have Fanshawe College as the listed institution who created it. Now, the publisher here is eCampus Pressbooks, but eCampus Pressbooks might publish books by multiple institutions. The network itself is eCampus, but like I think you see there's like 3 different filters that could potentially be used. There's the network filter, there's the publisher filter, and then there's the institution filter. Hopefully that gives some idea for how you might cut or split the difference.
It does help. It does help. So I feel like we could maybe, our network could be OCO.
Yeah.
And then our publisher could be Open OCO Press.
Probably.
And then the institutions, that can be multiple. So, okay, that is very helpful. Thank you.
That's one way to do it. I know, like, for example, Aperva, the Rebus Foundation has a slightly similar situation or context. Aperva, do you have a policy for how you do publisher versus institution fields and which ones you do and don't use?
Yeah, we've moved away from that model a little bit, but in the past, institution, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. The institutions that contributing authors or editors belong to or a part of. The publisher field, we sometimes decided with larger cross-institutional teams to look at who was assigning the ISBN number, because sometimes, it could be an institution, it could be the library press at a particular institution. In some cases, it was Rebus. So it was sort of the owner of the ISBN was listed as the publisher because those 2 fields were distinctly connected. Or it could
That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't considered that before, but that makes sense to me. Yeah. Mike, maybe at Ohio State, you also have a kind of publisher model. Do you have any thoughts about this that would be helpful for this conversation?
We don't have a lot of adopted content or, like remixed stuff on our network. So it hasn't come up too much here. And in terms of our multiple campuses, they all just kind of fall under the Ohio State University brand.
And do you consistently list the publisher as Ohio State University, or do you list as publisher for your books?
Yeah, for everything we go public with, that's kind of the chat on our finalized checklist we go through, and we just have everything listed as Ohio State University.
So consistent.
The Ohio State University.
Can't leave out the. Okay. All right. If anybody else has questions or comments on that, happy to answer them. Hopefully that gives it a start. Jamie, this may be another kind of a good question to ask in the community forum if you haven't already. I'm guessing there's other consortial, like eCampus Ontario is one of the biggest networks that probably has some thoughts about this. That's probably a good place to ask other consortia what they do. Maybe Open Oregon or Open Washington have similar, even Utah. I don't know. Okay, thanks. So the next thing I want to show are a couple of smaller fixes that we made for the Aldine theme. So I'll share the Aldine theme. The Aldine theme is the root theme that displays the landing page for Pressbooks catalogs. And we made a few minor fixes. First, this is what the homepage looks like. You could customize, obviously, lots of parts of this, but what was happening is if I went into a mobile view, you can see how the title and the subtitle display here. Previously, there was a bug that was causing this to appear up above and kind of out of sight. So suddenly it looked like your network no longer had a title anymore when you went to mobile view. So that's been fixed, and now you can see it's responsive and it looks the way it's supposed to look across all different screen sizes and types. You can decide at your network what your home page is. So for example, I am going to come in and customize my front page. Let's set the home page to be this page called test. I've made a test page. My network homepage is now going to be the test page. So this is the test page, and now this is what people see when they come to the home site. Well, what happened previously was if you accidentally or on purpose deleted your home page, your front page, then you were kind of stuck and you couldn't do much anymore and you couldn't reset a new one. So for example, I will show you, I'll come to pages. I'm going to delete this test page without having changed it off the home page. So test was my front page. If I trash the test page, you'll notice clearly that I no longer have an active page set to my home page. So my network is going to look a little bit broken. You're going to get a page not found message. Well, that's a problem, but it's only a problem if I can't change it to another page. So now we fixed a bug where there was a bug previously where once you deleted your home page, It wasn't allowing you to set a new one. We had to go manually change it for you on the back end, and that was kind of annoying. So now what you can do is you can come in and you'll see when you visit that setting here, now that I've deleted the homepage, you can see test is gone, so it's blank, but you can pick any other page and set it to be the home. So I'll go back and set homepage again as the homepage. If you delete or accidentally delete your homepage, you can now reset it and change it there without having problems. Another big bug that was affecting lots of folks was every network has this new network catalog. This network catalog is a lot like the directory in its look and feel, and it displays information about books in these little book cards here. We had an error or a bug where sometimes additional information was showing up in the author or the editor field that was unwanted, and it wasn't reflecting the current state of the book itself. There was a syncing problem where we collect a bunch of information in a centralized table that had a small bug that we fixed and removed. So you should find that all of your book cards now have accurate, correct information. When you update it, it will be updated within the next, collect the information every 12 hours or thereabouts. So it may take a minute for this to be updated, but usually it happens right away. And the authors and editors no longer have inaccurate or extraneous information that can't be cleared. So we're sorry about that bug, and we're glad we caught it. It's now been fixed. Anyone have questions for me about the bug fixes or the theme changes that we made, or things you wanted to ask related to that?
I had a question,
Sure.
not specifically about either of those fixes, but on the network catalog.
Yeah.
We're still having a problem where our book covers look blurry in our network catalog. I think that's been brought up before. I've noticed I think some catalogs have it and some catalogs don't. So just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. I think that's in our backlog. I believe that we're loading a thumbnail size that's not appropriate for display on all screens, and probably the Retina screens in particular, the image is just too small. So that we should have already fixed that. We haven't, and hopefully I'll have a positive update to share with you soon. We have built a new feature for our Pressbooks Results product, and we're just releasing it this week. It's been a lot of hard work for the last couple of months. And if you want to experience this as a student, we have a new way that you can do this. So I put a link in the chat, and if you follow this link, what you'll see is an open Canvas course that looks like this. In order to participate in the course, there's a link in the top right that says join this course. None of you will have accounts already, so go ahead and just say you're a new user. And if you want to follow along with me, go ahead and provide an email address. So if you want to follow along, you're going to be creating a free account on our test Canvas course, and then click the Enroll in Course button. Now that you've successfully enrolled, you're now in the course. You can go to the course, and you're enrolled as a student in our course. This course right now just has 5 demo dummy chapters, and each of these are graded activities that were built with Pressbooks using H5P activities. So for example, I'll start with this first activity. I'm launching this via LTI, so this is what a student would see if they use our results solution. And if you want to follow along, feel free to go ahead and do this. This will be kind of fun. It'll make sense in a second, but launch the activity and complete it. So there's a little flashcard activity. I'll just say that's a snail. Oh, that was wrong. Okay, great. So I got a 4 out of 6 on this, or 3 out of 6 on this activity. Down below, there's a little activity here. I'll just breeze through it. I happen to know most of the answers here. And then I've completed my first activity. So what you'll see is that a grade will now show up for me as a student. And there's my grade. I got 7 out of 5 out of 10. So that's the first feature that's included in Results for LMS. The big thing that we've been working on, though, that we added that we're really excited to share and release, this is part of what we're doing in our ongoing pilot, is we've got a new feature where, how did I earn that 7 out of 5? What did I actually score? So for every student, there's now this thing called chapter results. And I will show you the student view first. This is going to show me all of the results for a given student in an activity. So the activity that I did here was Lorraine Niedeker's Black Hawk Held. And so you'll see here, I scored 9 out of 10 on this first attempt. And you can drill down and see, what did I answer? Who was Lincoln's general? I answered Samuel Whiteside. I filled in the missing words. I filled in this. I filled in, those are the answers that I gave and the points that I gave. And you can see a bunch of different kind of features here. you'll be able to complete this activity and see this feature in real time as a student for any of the activities that you do. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop my share and show you what the instructor will see. This feature is, we're developing this to give both instructors and students more insight into the learning that's happened or happening. And so I'm going to jump out and show you the instructor view that will have a lot more information for all the students in a course. So here's what an instructor sees, and an instructor will see all of the available activities here. So I'll start with lesson 1, and we'll say, go ahead and show me everything. Oh, sorry. All of the activities from the course. The activity name is the name of the H5P activity. If it's a single question, it will display the question, and you might have to hover over it to see the full answer because it's the space is a bit constrained, but you can see the full prompt there. Here, this is the correct answer pattern that's expected. And again, you might have to hover over it to see the full pattern. But the answer here would be bilberries, blueberries, cloudberries, raspberries, blackberries, red currants, black currants. There's 7 correct answers. And then here for dictation activity, here's the correct answer. This is how many points you can earn by getting all of it correct. And here's the activity type. This was a single choice set. This was a fill in the blanks, mark the words, dictation. So this shows you all the activities. Now I can decide to show, let's say I only want to see how students did on the mark the words activity. That's the only one that's selected. Down below will show me all of the responses that students submitted for this activity. You can see that Steel student did it 1 time and scored 7 out of 7. Test student did it once, scored 7 out of 7. Tom student scored a 6 out of 7. And Michelle has gone through and done this activity twice. The first time she scored a 0 out of 7. The second time she scored 7 out of 7. And so this would be a way that you could drill down and let's say, I only want to understand how Michelle is doing in the course. And so I can actually select all the activities and say, this is just Michelle's attempts. This was a multiple question set. So it's showing me the 4 out of 6 and the date. And I can expand it to see the individual answers that Michelle gave to get that 4 out of 6 score. So she got this one incorrect, she got this one correct, and so forth. So that's kind of giving you a glimpse at what you can see there. The other thing that we can do is we can also sort by attempt. So I want to see Michelle's best attempt. So it's only showing me her best attempt, or all of people's best attempts. I can then say the first attempt, and it's only showing me the first attempts that people did. Or the most recent attempt, and so it's only showing the second attempt instead of the first one here. So those filters will allow you to see which attempts you would like to see. And then over here, you have a time submitted. So you might say, I only want to see the activities that were submitted yesterday and show me the results that came in yesterday. This is the prototype of what we built and what we're trying to deliver to give instructors more insight into student learning and students to get more insight into student learning. There's a selector that lets you see all the students or just a single one. And this is the first time I'm demoing it, showing it in real life. So I'll pause there and take any questions.
Will this practice book remain live for a bit so that I could have my colleagues take a look at it?
Definitely, yeah. We're going to be sending some more information. This is just like the very first quick practice book that I made. We will be fleshing this out and providing more and better examples in the near future, but I got this ready just this morning, and it'll stay up and it'll be open enrollment. Anybody who wants to enroll as a student can. If you know somebody who would like to see the instructor view, go ahead and join the course and email us, and we'll give you the instructor role so that you can see what this looks like and interact with it as an instructor as well as a student. Yeah.
Would I set up a separate account from the one I set up as a student just now?
I don't think you need to. I think we could just change your role in the course.
Thanks.
Yeah, but you could if you wanted to. I think we're still figuring all this out. This is brand new to us too.
I get it. I love that. I'm here to help build the processes with you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So this is a major emphasis for us, and this is the initial release. What's happening next? I guess the next steps are, we have a small number of instructors who are actively using this right now in live courses. So we're going to be focused on presenting it to them and training them to use this and getting feedback from them starting next week. But we want this to be broadly useful. We want this to be of interest and as useful to as many people as possible. So even if you're not using this in your course right now, there is a method or a plan by which you could experiment it, try it out, and give us feedback. So Michelle, who's here on the call, is our UX UI designer. she's designed this initial layout with some of the space constraints that you see. And we are going to be doing usability studies with a set of volunteers. The initial usability study would be like a 45-minute session where we ask you to perform a set of tasks and talk aloud about what you see and don't see, and also give us your personal subjective opinion about what works for you, what doesn't work, what you wish you had, what didn't wish you had. The ideal participants in a usability study would be instructors who have an interest in this results product and insight into student learning. And we're actively recruiting people to join, whether they're in the pilot or not. So if you or colleagues at your institution be interested, please get in touch with us. We'll be contacting people soon about this opportunity to participate. The second thing that's happening is we're also planning to make this a much larger scale pilot in the winter/spring term, so starting in January. And so there's a lot of pieces that go into participating in a pilot. It's making sure that your LTI connection is working, identifying an instructor who has a bunch of H5P activities in a book and wants to participate in a pilot, and then learning about what this result solution is, how it might work. But we want to get started on that process early too. So if your institution or instructors that you know of would be good candidates and want to try this out in a no-cost pilot in the spring or in the winter term, we would love to have you, and we're starting to actively recruit for that. We will be improving this chapter results viewer. We'll probably be building other kinds of answers to other kinds of questions that instructors and students have about graded activities, and help us make something that would be useful to others, is I guess our request. So that's what's happening for us, and that's what we're working on. There will be some email follow-up that we'll send out to network managers. And we also have a bunch of instructors that we're aware of that have already made a lot of H5P activities in their books. And we'll be doing some invitations kind of directly to them with the network manager CC, most likely. Michelle, is there anything you'd like to add or mention as the UX researcher or someone who's working on design and usability studies?
I don't have anything to add to what you said, but I am looking forward to running any of these usability tests, and we'd love to have you.
Terrific, thanks. So the other things that are happening that are in progress for us, we have an existing LTI provider plugin that we are basically rebuilding and refactoring with two things in mind. We now understand the LTI specification and what instructors want to do a little bit better. And so we're going to dramatically simplify the process needed to configure LTI and to configure a chapter for grading. Right now, it's just too many clicks. It's too complicated. Things that should be easier are too complicated. And so we won't release, obviously, those changes until the semester ends, because we don't want to mess anyone up that's currently using the solution. But we're hard at work, and we'll be working on a bunch of big improvements based on the feedback from the pilot. And we also want to make the solution much easier for our developers to maintain, so that they understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, and we can more rapidly fix things, improve things, add new features in the future. So a lot of behind the scenes work on just the design and implementation of the solution, and that's what's going to occupy most of our effort for the next few months, as well as learning from people in the existing pilot and people who are interested. So a lot of our focus will be on how do we make learning more visible, and so expect to see messages from us and be invited to participate in that as a major focus for our organization or for Pressbooks in the next few months. Another kind of emphasis that we're thinking about that we want to focus on is, over the last 2 years in particular, we've had a new kind of type of Pressbooks user or Pressbooks client. Back when we first started doing Pressbooks, it was individual authors, and that's who was using Pressbooks. And then we started serving institutions, and it was usually education institutions. So a single university or a single college were the first kind of enterprise clients of Pressbooks. And they said, well, we want to make Pressbooks available to everyone at the University of Washington, or everyone at the University of Oregon, or everyone at Capilano College, or what have you. And so we started making a bunch of tools for network managers at a single institution. And that was really Pressbooks' emphasis or focus for the last 5 years or so. Well, as Pressbooks has grown and these programs have grown, a number of our clients say, well, we want to have a single Pressbooks network that's not just for one institution, but that's shared across the state or across a province or by many institutions. And so we're calling those consortial clients. Those consortial clients like Open Oklahoma or a few other eCampus Ontario or BC Campus are increasingly like prominent users of Pressbooks and doing things at a bigger scale. And one of the challenges that we've run into is right now, all of the network administration tools that we have assume that you're from a single institution, or we don't have a concept of institution really built into Pressbooks. And so we can give you the ability to administer your whole network, but let's say the eCampus Ontario has 15 institutions. They'd like to be able to assign books and users to a single institution and make an institution sub-account where I have a sub-account manager who manages all of the books at College X or College Y, and some concept of the books and users that belong to that institution. That's kind of a big architectural challenge or problem, but we know that for consortial clients, having visibility at the institutional level is really important, both for books and users, but also for product usage, like who's using it, understanding page view analytics, being able to generate the data that we give you at the network level at the institutional level or the sub-account level is something that people are really interested in. So we're writing up a development proposal that eCampus Ontario is intending, I think, to sponsor. And we would like to find out a little bit more from other consortial type clients, what kind of the needs and interests you have about managing and having management tools and visibility into what's happening at the institution level. I think Sarah, you joined from eCampus Ontario, and we have somebody here from Open Oklahoma. I don't know if we have any other consortial clients on the call today, but for Sarah or for Jamie, is there anything that you'd like to speak about, or you'd like me to hear about your needs and desires at the consortial level for managing institutions?
I'm not sure I have anything new to add, but because I would be considered probably I'm the network manager for the TCC, Tulsa Community College instances.
Yeah.
And the biggest frustration that I do have is not being able to see myself a list of all of the projects being started. I have to rely on Tracy or Brad from the Regent's office to send me an updated list of account holders from TCC, as well as the projects that are being worked on. And they're really good about it, to be clear. It's not like it's ever really been a frustration for me.
But it's not self-serve right now. You have to, yeah.
Exactly. I can't do it myself. I have to wait to get that info from them. So
Open Oklahoma shares with many institutions.
right.
How would you identify automatically or know if a book was a TCC project? Would you look at the user's email address, or what would be your
Yes, because that's how we issue accounts and differentiate like a user from TCC, where we've got the buy up versus another institution that just has the one single, project that they get as being part of the membership. And so, yeah, it's basically, I think, by email address is how it would be of the owner of the book.
So we'd sort users by email address and send them to institutions, and then we'd look at the admin email for a book and say, based on this email domain, those are the institutions that the book should belong to.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense to me if we can do that consistently. The trick will be each network will need to make its own list of institutions and associate with it email or email domains. Do you use a single email domain for all users at TCC, or do you have different ones for students, instructors, staff?
Single.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you, everyone, for attending the September monthly product update. We'll be back again in October with more to share. Appreciate all that you do to support publishing at your institutions, and we'll see you then.